Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ad Project Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Shellerud from Ad Advance, and today I'm joined by Brent by AMC Pathfinder. Brent, it's awesome to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, Joe. Hey, nice to see you, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we've got to meet up a couple times at different conferences. Really excited to have you on the show. So for people who aren't familiar with you, kind of give us a quick background, what you do, how you got into the space. It's always fun to hear people's stories.
Yeah, sure. I'm the founder of AMC Pathfinder, like you mentioned. We're primarily an advertising agency. We do some other ancillary services I can get to if the conversation takes us there. But I started with online advertising in 2011. I had an internship at a small B2B marketing firm and did Google ads there for a couple of years. Then fast forward to 2015, I was in a different industry, and I had a friend that was selling on Amazon, and that was like the early days of what was the, let's call it like version 1.0 of Amazon Seller, where everybody was like doing products from China and putting a label on it and putting it on Amazon and like making millions on their garlic press, Garlic press, if anyone.
That's when I started, and yes,
too
highly
well.
Experienced in the garlic press conversations.
Yes. Okay. I think you have that same pedigree. Then you have that background from that. Those are early days, and I had my context for advertising was largely Google, was largely B2B. So like huge high ticket services. Like I had advertised for car dealerships and insurance. B2B like software tools that there's one that I used to work with that did like paperless migration. So it'd be like a tool that would come in and they would help a company go paperless, which is like a massive undertaking. If you have, like imagine a company that has like thousands of filing cabinets. So these are like huge high ticket things, yes. Right? Super valuable. The person I knew was selling something for about $90 US. And so at that time, sponsored products was the only game in town. There wasn't, sponsored brands or sponsored display. And the CPCs were, if my memory is correct, like 6 or 7 cents. This was an industrial and scientific.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it's insane, right? Like,
especially in industrial and scientific too. Yep, that sounds totally right.
Even these days, you might be able to get CPCs that are quite low in industrial scientific because we're all used to talking about baby and supplements and all these things, right? Which are like, exceedingly costly these days. But I saw the ROI on that and I was like, this is insane. And I immediately started like, surfing all these Facebook groups that were around. Some of them were attached to some of the bigger name podcasts back then. One of them was Brian Johnson's troubleshooting group. Shout out to Brian for being in it from the early days. And just started picking up clients. So 2016, I actually hired some people part-time. And then really 2017, I went like full-time on it at the end of 2016 and started traveling around and also simultaneously like hiring people full-time and growing it. And we've been a remote agency ever since.
That is awesome. Yeah, because I got going in the space kind of the same time frame. I started selling on Amazon in 2014.
Wow.
But really started deep diving into the advertising like 2016, 2017 time frame. Yeah, it was just a different game then. If you could set up an auto sponsored products campaign and run a low bid, get a super awesome return on your advertising. If you wanted to get fancy, you could set up a manual campaign and pick a couple keywords, but there wasn't much to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to look back, like now the complexity, even just on the sponsored ad side and not even taking more of the mid upper funnel side or DSP or AMC, right. Just the change in complexity and also the change in competition just over, that wasn't that long ago. In internet time, that was a super long time ago, but that's 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's true. Like internet time or Amazon time, because their iteration is so fast and they're such a big company with so much resource, that does seem like ages. And I think little did we know, those were like the salad days, right? That was like the easiest time. And knowing what I know now, if I could go back in time and tell myself then, who knows what the company would look like now. But, that's just a question of perspective and learning over time, right? We all go through that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Got to constantly iterate, got to constantly change, got to constantly adapt the Amazon world and the advertising world and the e-commerce world is going to leave you behind. Yeah. So one key piece that I want to get your take on, especially like starting with the Google background. And so I know you guys have run some like Google and outside traffic going to Amazon. So I wanted to get your take on that, like where you've seen it work, what you've seen work, like how do you typically define if we're looking at like outside traffic and driving that to Amazon, what's the right case when people listening, they're saying, okay, yep, that's me. Maybe I should try this.
Yeah, this is this has a lot of nuance, this discussion. So I'm happy to dig into this. I mean, let's like lay some kind of like groundwork first. The first thing is Amazon. Let's just assume, because this is what we're assuming in doing this, that Amazon is incentivizing and rewarding people that are sending, relevant external traffic. The keyword there being like relevant. I think if you just take a campaign and you blast a bunch of garbage at Amazon on your listing, you're probably going to hurt yourself because it's going to be a bunch of irrelevant, impressions and sessions without conversion, and that's probably not in your best interest, right? And by external traffic, I mean anything that's like outside of Amazon's ecosystem. So the one that we are primarily concerned with is Google, but like we've seen clients and people I know have TikTok agencies. That seems to be like a big one. That seems to be more like a one-time spike. And then you kind of, benefit from that and the BSR and the keyword rank improvements. Pinterest is probably good. I know Amazon just inked a deal with them recently. We're not going to see the fruits of that just yet. But the one we're focused on is Google, because the Google model is really similar to what we're all accustomed to with Amazon, right? It's primarily keyword based. We of course have ASIN targeting on Amazon too, but for the purposes of this, we're focused on keywords mostly, and it's cost per click. Second highest past the post bidding, whatever it's called. The auction model, and it's really the same kind of like search intent when people are on Google. Now, obviously, the volume of searches on Google is far greater. I've seen estimates like from 3 billion searches related to products a day to 6 or 7 billion searches in general. So, a large chunk of those per day are product related. But the distinction with Google is you need to try to sort through all the informational, navigational, contextual queries and look for the ones that are like purchase intent based. So what we're trying to do when we're pulling that traffic over from Google is kind of dig a new stream, if you will, take our shovels out and dig a new stream and channel some of that water into the river of like Amazon demand. So there are terms that are like more or less appropriate for it. That's the way I would like kind of set up the stage for it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I love how you kind of talk through like digging through some of the informational queries and getting to those product specific searches. Like one really easy approach that we've taken to try to do that is there's many people who will search on Google and they'll type in a general term. So let's just say I live up in northern Minnesota, summer's coming, we'll say camping tent. And then they'll follow it up with Amazon. Right. And so they want to directly go to Amazon to find their camping tent. And maybe we even get a little bit more long tail and maybe we sell like a 4-person camping tent. And then they have Amazon appended on either side. All right. So we could either have them go and see the general like search results for the 4-person camping tent, or we could run an ad and then direct them directly to our product detail page. Right. And so that's one of the little tricks that we've found, just trying to use Google traffic. All right, they're searching for products and they want to go to Amazon. All right, conversion rate's probably going to be a decent amount higher than more of the general terms. And so those are kind of like some of the niche cases that we've found that have worked well, utilizing Google, sending it over, then getting the brand referral bonus. That also helps on the margin standpoint to cover some of the costs.
Yeah, that's the next part, actually. I should have mentioned the groundwork is the brand referral bonus, which, as far as I'm aware, Joe, I know we were talking about this before. We're not up to date on every single thing in the ecosystem, but I think that brand referral bonus is still only in North America because we have attribution in like every country, right? So, France, Germany, we do some Google stuff here in Europe. But yeah, brand referral, I think, is only in the US. That's roughly that 10% back, which is pretty incredible and pretty cool. But to your point with like the Amazon append on the thing, that's like a navigational query and a, transactional query. So it's got that beauty of like both things. And, one problem we've run into with some clients is that they already have Google traffic driving to their homepage. Maybe it's Shopify or similar, some other kind of e-commerce platform. And when we do that, we have to make a distinction between, okay, these are Amazon like specific terms, and these are the ones that we're not going to mess with. Maybe they run it themselves, maybe they have an agency, and that goes to their own e-com site. So we try to have like a distinction between those two, and say, hey, these ones we're interested in on Amazon are typically terms that already have some demand on Amazon. So we're just trying to boost your existing rank for that. That's the primary reason that clients are interested in doing it. Secondarily, it might be good for making money. Like there's ROAS, especially if you get brand referral bonus in there. And third of all, it might be useful for launches in some cases. But really what clients are looking for is like either maintenance or boost of organic rank. And we have found in our testing with this, it can be accomplished with like steady spend over the course of 2 months at minimum. And by steady, I mean like every day that keyword is receiving clicks and spend, and hopefully add to carts and conversions, right? Because we can actually see that with attribution now. And it's not something that's going to happen like in a week or two. It's sustained, and it has to have a steady conversion rate. That's like that's in the pocket, right? Those are like the 5 or 6 conditions that if you meet, you will probably see an increase in organic rank and then a sustain with it. And once we get it like set up and configured properly, that's kind of the nice thing about search advertising in general is like, except for some seasonality, like the tents you mentioned, it probably goes to crap in the winter in Minnesota, right? That's not good. No one's doing 4-person.
Sure. You do not want to geo-target Minnesota for tents in the winter.
No one's doing 4-person, 1-person, or 6-person camping. No one's doing any kind of camping in Minnesota, I think, in the winter, unless they're really wild. But that's when we see like an actual impact that I think is noticeable, and we track that through. We used a couple tools, but we use like one to track the actual organic rank, and then the tool we use for actually running the ads, which is called Amped, actually, is a tool out there that has some built-in tracking too. So we track it in multiple places to make sure like it's actually happening. It's not just one tool telling us it's happening.
Sure. That's cool. Are there any specific products or categories or price points or consumables versus non-consumables that you see work better with outside traffic, or especially like the Google example?
Yeah, price points, I would say things that are more than $35 or $40 US. I think things that are too cheap, they don't really work. You might be able to figure out some arbitrage occasionally, like a keyword is cheaper on Google than it is on Amazon. That does happen. But generally speaking, the conversion rate is going to be lower. Conversion rates, and you guys know this because you're always posting those awesome graphs on LinkedIn, but like, conversion rates on Amazon for ads can be like 8, 9, 10%. For Google, it might be like 2 or 3, like maybe like 4 if you're like really lucky, right? So the conversion rate is going to be far less than usual. So things that are higher priced, maybe things that do have a longer consideration cycle where you're getting them to that detail page, or in our case, we run a lot of traffic to storefronts too, like storefront pages, because those are absent any competitors, and that's kind of interesting.
Yep.
That might be the right use case for it. We actually we have a lot of clients with like durable products. We don't have that many consumable product clients. We do, but not that many. So I'm not sure if we're actually running for that. I think there's one I can think of that we are, but I don't have the numbers in front of me to be able to say it's like working super well or not well based on just that.
Yeah. I mean, what we've seen, and you just had a ton of great points there. So like, conversion rates coming from Google tend to be quite a bit lower than coming from Amazon. And that's even the case once you get like very specific terms, like somebody wants to search on, when they do camping tents, Amazon, even from that, when it's like really indicating both shopper intent and where they want to purchase, we still see conversion rates being lower. And so in terms of the arbitrage standpoint, you had to have a decently low CPC. You had to find some unique cases to make that work. The other case where we found success is those products that have high lifetime values. And so like we do have a lot of products that are more consumables where if you just look at the specific ACOS or ROAS for that initial purchase, it definitely doesn't make sense. But then once you extend it out and the average person who comes in buys 3 or 4 more of these products, then it really starts to make more sense. And like for a lot of our advertisers are based in North America where we can take advantage mentioned the brand referral bonus. So you take that into account, and then the potential like ranking impacts too. That's where it starts to make sense. But it's really taking a bigger picture approach and really expanding beyond just that ACOS or ROAS mindset that, you know, some Amazon brands can get themselves stuck in.
Okay. Well, that's well advised, man. I'm taking that under consideration because maybe we should be rolling this out to more of our the handful of consumable clients that we do have, you know, that sell stuff that has maybe a lower price point, but is a repeat purchase. And man, if you can get people on a subscribe and save, which I think is one of the attribution fields in Amazon attribution, isn't it? I don't know off the top of my head, but it should be if it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It should be if it's not, because that's a super valuable thing. I mean, I know in DSP it has been for years, but in attribution, I don't know if it is. And actually, one last thing about that, we suspect that the attribution is actually under-reporting sometimes. From the data like we've compared and what we've seen, we think it's under-reporting. So maybe Amazon will update that and come out with what we think are the real numbers, which would actually be even more in our favor. So I hope that's the case. Fingers crossed.
It much better be underreported than overreported.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, overreporting is like a cardinal sin with any attribution. So yeah, don't want to do that.
So we were talking about like ACOS and ROAS. You know, as we look at like bottom of funnel strategies. So if we look at like sponsored products, you know, it's pretty easy to measure the contribution or the impact that those ads have just because they're so close to the sale. But as you start moving up to more like mid or upper funnel strategies, this is where we get a lot more questions on, hey, what should we be looking at? What should we be measuring? What should we be implementing? So let's just take the case where, all right, we've got solid campaign funnel structure. We've got it built out. We've got the bottom of the funnel, sponsored products, you know, maybe sponsored display, product targeting, like all the major bottom of the funnel strategies built out, and feel like we're solid on that. Where do you tend to move after that in terms of building out that mid and upper funnel? What are you measuring? What's the cutoff point? Like, how high do you go? That's always another question. I'm always really interested to hear other people's take on this, just because it gets a little bit more gray.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get messy for sure. And I think maybe the first thing to lay like the foundation again is to try to educate our clients about moving away from just ACOS focus, and maybe even away from tacos focus, you know, total ACOS, which is one of the other big ones in our industry. I'm a big fan of new to brand. I like that metric a lot. And, you know, they had that in sponsored brands for a long time, but I know now that we can get this in sponsored products through AMC. Because we do use AMC through a third-party tool and have a dashboard for that for just select clients. And that's been one of my favorite things to see for sponsored products, actually. It's like new to brand. So I'm a big fan of like new to brand. I think that's like under discussed, underused. Another one that I'm trying to wrap my team's head around and wrap my own head around would just be like lifetime value and customer acquisition costs, which are like classic e-commerce metrics. I'm not sure if we're really able to connect customer acquisition costs correctly right now. I don't think we have that anywhere. And lifetime value you can get from some dashboards in Amazon, but then actually linking that up with advertising is not something I think we've been able to accomplish. So those are some of the ones that are all like on my like hit list these days. Because the other day I sat down and I made a thing that's like, here are the 4 layers of you know, Amazon attribution at different levels of like maturity of a business. And some clients, you know, at the end of it, I think they're really interested in profit, but profit is a calculation that requires a lot of things. So like COGS, LTV, CAC, and then if you can factor all those things in, you can figure out profit. But that's not profit that we might know as it from like ACOS, where it's like, well, my COGS is this much, and my break-even ACOS is this much, and it's 25, and we're at 17, so therefore profit. It's like, well, not really. Actually, that's not the full perspective on that. There's other things to it. Yeah, what do you guys look at? I'm really curious now.
I mean, no, I love this discussion because you can end up in these other situations too, where like, all right, I can run all branded spend. Like I'll do all brand defense campaigns for sponsored products. And my return on advertising is going to look great.
It's going to skyrocket.
You know, so I can take that. Yep. Conversion rate super high. Like cost per click, it was reasonable. And look at all these sales I made. So you can calculate profit that way, but is that really like the true profit? Because you're kind of just cannibalizing a lot of those branded search branded searches that where they're going to scroll down to your product anyway. And so it's not measuring the true impact for ads. Like when we run ads, the idea of ads is to get somebody to buy who would not have bought without seeing that ad. And so I love the focus on new to brand too. All right, so new to brand. So there could be people who are searching for my brand because they're just doing a repeat purchase. There could be other people who maybe I drove them in through the rest of the funnel, and then they're searching and doing a branded search too. These are the type of items that we've had a lot of fun digging into, like the search query performance report. One way we are starting to use that is you can see your market share percentage. So you can actually turn off like our brand defense campaign. So let's not defend our brand for a little bit. And then let's look at our market share for purchases and see if that's impacted or not. And we can finally quantify like what is the pure incrementality that we have from our ads. And then can we reallocate that budget elsewhere? So if we do pull spend from branded search to more general terms, our ACoS is going to look worse. And our ROAS is going to look worse, but we could be driving more incremental sales with those ads. And so I don't know. I love the conversation. I'm getting on my soapbox a little bit, but
I'm just processing here as you're talking. Because I'm thinking like one thing I fantasize about with client accounts sometimes is like, just forget your brand. Like, let's just go as super hard as we can against all these competitor ASINs where we have an advantage and just like dominate their pages. And like, the ACoS is not going to be as great, but we're like ripping these customers away from these other things. Cause you know, Amazon is like this dog eat dog environment where, it's like, hey, here's your innocent product detail page. And then there's like ads plastered all over it. And those ads are like people that are trying to steal that customer. You know, if you're a shopper, you're like playing this, like, you're like distracted, like squirrel, you know, you're looking at all these ads.
Yep. And to be clear, I'm not saying let's pull all brand defense, but we finally have like a way that we can measure the impact, which was always the core question. It's like, all right, do I defend my brand? Do I not? If I do, how much am I cannibalizing sales? If I don't, how much of those competitors are going to come in and steal all my the people who are searching for me? So it's another piece, and I love the discussion and kind of trying to break out like lifetime value and acquisition cost, and being able to tie that to like specific ads. Like that would be so awesome to be able to do. We're starting to work more on lifetime value and really trying to get a deeper dive through tools like Amazon Marketing Cloud. But it's not perfect yet.
It's not.
But I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, and
I feel like if you can break through that, there's so many other decisions.
If I could put my conspiracy hat on for a second, Joe, I think that Amazon sometimes intentionally doesn't want us to know some of these things. So they're like, it's going to be an AMC, but like we're not going to make it super easy to like connect these things, and you have to have a pretty advanced, SQL person or program on the other end to like download, store, interpret that data. Maybe it's just that it's a real challenge, but I feel like if they wanted to, this is Amazon we're talking about, they could give us a better idea of repurchases and lifetime value, but they still see those customers as their own customers, and this is why, generally speaking, a lot of our clients aspire to 30% of their sales off Amazon and owning the relationship there more. And then, on platforms like Shopify, like, you can actually calculate these things a lot easier. So I'm suspicious.
And I would counter a bit where I think that if we can see lifetime value better and we can see repeat purchases better, I think then we can justify more advertising spend, because now that can drive people a little bit further away from ROAS and ACoS. And at the end of the day, they're trying to maximize advertising spend. Sure. So unless the repeat purchase numbers we have right now are looking better than they actually are, I think there's a benefit to it. But like you said, any repeat purchases, it's driving back to Amazon. They're Amazon's customers. We're holding on with our brand too. So, in terms of value of repeat purchases on Amazon versus on my website directly, big difference there too.
I think that's a valid pushback you just gave, because I think Amazon as a company, in my experience, can be convinced or at least persuaded to entertain something if you give them the reason why and then you provide data behind it. They're always interested in what's the data. Like if you just say like, this interface for sponsored brands is bad, they're like, okay, well that's called complaining. And if you say this interface for sponsored brands is bad because it takes us X amount of time to do it and we would build X more campaigns and spend X more money, they would say, well, that's data, now we're interested. So I think that they have strong opinions weakly held as an organization. allocation. At least that's my experience from, talking to people at the company over the years.
Sure. Hey, are there any areas that are getting you really excited right now, or any deep dives you've been doing, or things that you've been seeing changing that are getting you
Well, we're
pumped
talking
up?
about AMC. I mean, we run video so we have AMC for one client for whom we also run a lot of video advertisements on DSP.
Sure.
And it's been super cool for us to actually see, what do those video campaigns do? What do they really do? Because before, the attribution model I think we had was like pretty bad, and you'd see, oh, here are some sales attributed to these video campaigns, but the ROAS was like terrible. But then with AMC, we're actually, oh no, wait, we can see what's happened. They saw the video campaign, they were exposed to the brand 2 more times through display ads, and then they clicked on sponsored products on the in the actual ecosystem itself when they were shopping on Amazon. And now we can actually connect some of that together. Now, it's not easy to do, and that's not the majority of clients. But if you try to attribute take the attribution model and kind of spread it out more, well, then actually those video campaigns start looking a bit better, and it makes a lot more sense to run them at great scale and rotate out the creative and, spend more money on them more regularly. There are brands we work with for whom this is appropriate. They have enough money to do that. That's definitely not all of them, but AMC has instilled in me, I think, like a new level of confidence with some aspects of DSP, which is something that, we don't really specialize in like super hardcore. We have like 8 or 9 clients that use it, but that's been like an eye opener. I've been really, really jazzed on that, actually. The other thing I'm really excited about is Marketing Stream, which, I know you guys are big on too, because you're yet again posting those screenshots that are always really interesting. But the ability to adjust by time of day and look at conversion rate and make those decisions, I think has unlocked the ability for us, if we're doing it properly, to utilize the same or less ad budget and make it more effective in terms of just exposure and just the classic like ACoS, right? I can't wait until there's other stuff in there like geo targeting. I think it's pretty well established at this point, Joe. Maybe you'd agree with this, that like Amazon does base organic rank on geography. So if you're searching from Minnesota, I'm searching from France, someone's searching from Florida, there's fulfillment centers that are close to all of those locations. And maybe I have 500 units in Florida and I have 3 in Minnesota at a fulfillment center. So that person in Florida is going to see it better than you are. Well, how does that actually impact our ads? Wow, that adds a whole nother layer of stuff that we can mess around with. So I'm really excited about that, potentially. I don't know when's that going to happen, but...
Yeah, I love that thought too. I mean, living in northern Minnesota, sometimes our delivery times can be a little bit longer, especially if the inventory is down in a warehouse down in Florida or something. And so, being able to geo-target, just based off delivery time itself. I mean, with how competitive the platform is, that could be really sweet. Totally agree too. Like AMC, we've been getting really pumped up about just for upper funnel strategies. Yeah, because before you look at ROAS, well, it's last touch attribution. Yeah. So a lot of the sales that were initially introduced from that video ad get attributed further down the funnel. And so ROAS is going to look terrible. So then all you could look at is like, well, here's my reach, but it just... you didn't get that tie to like what truly drives a business, which is sales. And so being able to see that customer journey, being able to see the impact, being able to see the conversion rates for people who have seen the video and then came through a sponsored product ad, like all those pieces are so valuable. And I think it's really going to help drive more mid to upper funnel spend, because we can now tie it back to like the core business metrics.
Right. Right. Yeah. Previously, we had reported on just, here's how many impressions, here's the click-through rate, here's how many, detailed page views, things like that. I remember running DSP some years ago and being like, look at all these detailed page views. It's like, yeah, but like, how about the things we want? Sales. It's like mumble.
Exactly.
It's like somewhere, and then over here, step 3, profit, right? The old meme. I'm definitely excited about that. And AMS, I think, one thing we haven't used, let me know if you guys are using this at all with Marketing Stream, is some of the alerts, right? So we have like alerts for campaigns that are incremented by 5%, and then like, state changes, like campaign is paused, maybe because something loses the buy box. We haven't really used that yet. I think that's another interesting thing that's a part of AMS. Have you guys operationalized that? This is inside agency talk now, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. I think the biggest use case that we've seen there is maybe like running out of budgets, and where we see the biggest use case are days like Prime Day,
absolutely,
or Black Friday, or days where traffic really
Christmas
spikes.
run up.
Because usually we can control pretty well. We get day by day through the API, but it's what Amazon Marketing Stream does for those who are listening. It provides like real time updates, and so say if we're having a big spike in traffic, now we can see what's out of budget intraday, where before we'd have to go through and pull the API, refresh it constantly throughout the day. Now we can get those updates. So like budget's been a key one for us that we've been able to use intraday with Amazon Marketing Stream.
Very good. That's interesting, because I think that's part of the reason that Marketing Stream was created, because Amazon didn't want people hammering the APIs, because it's a lot of resource on their end and your end, right?
People us.
Well, it's not just you, man. It's every software provider, anyone doing it. It was the solution that we had, but now we have a better solution. I really talk to clients and people about AMS as thinking like push notifications on your phone, right? It's really the same idea. It's like something happens, you receive a notification. You're not the one going in there and refreshing the app every 5 seconds, right? It's someone sending something to you.
I love that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I like that.
It's literally push versus pull. So it's the same idea. And I love to see it.
Yeah. All right, Brent, I could talk to you all day, but yeah. So we'll have to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. For those people who want to get more in contact with you, follow your content. I know you're on multiple different podcasts, like Ad Badger podcast. See you on there quite a bit. So where should people find you? Follow you?
Yeah, sure. If you want to find or follow me personally, you can actually go to my own website, which is like a Linktree style website. It's brent.bike. Yeah, I own the .bike domain for my name. I'm a really big cyclist, and I thought it was distinctive. That. So www.brent.bike. That has links to everything, including my Strava profile for cyclists out there. And if you want to just get in touch with Pathfinder, you can go to amzpathfinder.com /report. We have a quarter 2 report we put out every quarter. This one's just for this quarter, and it details like stuff we're thinking about, stuff we care about. And that's just a free download. So go ahead and check that out. Those are the 2 best places.
Sweet. Well, thanks again, Brent, for joining the podcast. And for all those who are listening, as always, really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.